the radio show. So if you clap, I think that the people out in Radio Land will be able to hear you tonight. Well, when we get live. So there you go. We did have some internet trouble, folks, and that's why we're running really late. I'm really sorry about that. If the connection didn't work, and that's another thing. Hey, you wonder why it didn't work here, huh? There you go.
All right, everybody. My name's Austin Thomas. I'm going to plug www.freedomizerradio.com. Check me out on Guerrilla Radio and Unraveling the Matrix there. Happy to be here, opening up for Super Soldiers and Mind Control Summit too. Thank you, Lorraine. Basically, I just want to spend a few minutes and discuss what's really going on, and what is troubling to me is a thing called ubiquitous computing. I'm sure you guys out there know what I'm talking about here. Everything is being data mined. Everything right now is being locked down. All information is being... and all, I'm live, all right. And all information is being mined. Look at your cell phone. They're monitoring you with that. Look at appliances now, they're monitoring you with that. It's getting out of control, what's going on in the country and in the world today. We're heading into a true 1984 state. You've got people like our fearless DHS leader talking about if you see something, say something. So basically we're in a 1984 Orwellian society where they want you to snitch out everybody. And I'm not with that. I'm a constitutional guy. I believe in the right to freedom. I believe into the right of privacy. I believe in our Second Amendment rights, you know, to bear arms. And I'm scared of my tyrannical government. I'm scared of what's going on with the Illuminati who are pulling the puppet strings on Obama, for one. For the past, I don't know, dozen presidents have been just basically puppets on a string. They're working an agenda for these 13 families, and this is really, really scary to me. This is what is really scaring me. We need to step to the plate. We need to expose these tyrannous people. We need to fight for our freedoms and our rights. We need to come together as a collective group. And I don't know, I'm for the Constitution. That's what it's all about. And I'm sick of all these acts, they're not laws, that are being signed like NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act. You know, they can call you a domestic terrorist, they can take you away, they can lock you up without any charge. No charge whatsoever. We're talking about CISPA, these big companies that keep pushing and pushing to data mine information on all of you. You log in your computer, you go to Google, you use Skype, you use Facebook. This is CIA and these letterbox agencies are pulling in this information. They're pulling this information. And they're using it for whatever means they see fit. These things are very scary. These things are my hot button. This is what concerns me. I don't know. What can we do as a collective? We need to get involved. We need to push our puppet senators, governors, on the local level. We need to get together with our local sheriffs. That's who really holds the power. And tell them that enough is enough. We're sick of this tyranny. We're sick of it all. And we have to stand up together as a unit, as one. We all have to work on our local levels to expose, which this summit does, expose like transhumanism, MK Ultra, Monarch program. I mean, these things are real. We need to get this out to the people so they understand these things are real. We're not a bunch of tinfoil hat wearing people. I mean, this is reality, folks. This is what's going on in our world today. Whether these, I hate to use this term sheeple, but I'm going to use the sheeple, these people that are asleep, that don't realize, that don't believe that our government could do such things as 9/11 taking down towers, that could do things, false flags in Boston, that could do false flags in Sandy Hook, These are all false flags. Look what happens after Boston. They have a false flag there. They're kicking in doors. They're wiping out our Fourth Amendment rights. They're kicking in doors, and they're conditioning the people out there right now. They're cheering these police and DHS agents. They're cheering them on and hugging them. Hey, thanks for trampling my Fourth Amendment rights. Thanks for going through my house. No, not my house. You don't, look, if the guy that you framed that you're looking for was in my house, believe me, he wouldn't be here. I'd take care of it on my own. I don't need Big Brother holding my hand. I don't need the government holding my hand. I'm sovereign, I'm independent. I don't need this. I need my Constitution. That's what I need to hold on to. I'm going to hold that to the bitter end with my gun. My gun, my Constitution, that's all I need. And my Bill of Rights. My rights as a sovereign citizen. That's what I need. And without further ado, where's my friend David Vanderbeek? Get on up here. This is your future governor here in Nevada in 2014. This is the man. Check him out on YouTube. David Laurie Vanderbeek. This guy puts it out there.
Anyway, yeah, so.
And I'm going to hand the mic to this man. This is what this is all about. This is why I'm here. Good to see you, Dave.
Okay. Well, I'm going to visit with you a little bit later on, but I am the next governor of Nevada, and we're going to have somebody else coming on right now. But we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to go wherever the truth goes. All right. We got 9 minutes?
Yep.
Is that what you said? Okay. Well, then we'll use the 9 minutes. How about that? We got the time. We're going to improve it. The first thing that I want to share with you is I don't want to go, we don't need to think of this as a conspiracy when it's reported in mainstream news, okay? We're talking about this article. This is the Independent UK, okay? The article is Super Soldiers, the Quest for the Ultimate Killing Machine. This was 2011 November. It says that they're hearkening back to the Spartans and English public schools that produce these warriors. Now, they wanted to, what we've wanted to create were highly trained, super fit soldiers, and they represent a huge investment. That's true, right? They've got these special forces soldiers, they train them, and I served in the military, I'm a veteran. But they're saying, well, we've got to use these human assets, and they call us human resources, right, in all the companies. A soldier who's too tired to fight effectively, who's gone mad, or who is suffering severe stress is like a broken down tank. No use to anybody. What if soldiers could be made that did not break down? Now, we're not in an era where they're going to have robots anytime soon like the Terminator. They don't have that ready, okay? But scientists are reporting breakthroughs with the next best thing, the creation of human Terminators who feel less pain, less terror, and less fatigue than quote-unquote non-enhanced soldiers, and whose very bodies may be augmented by powerful machines. This is Pennsylvania State University. They're saying, their lead biochemist, bioethicist actually, Professor Jonathan Marino, is saying that neuroscience has been co-opted by the military. He said right now this is the fastest growing area of science, neuroscience, okay? The Pentagon spends $400 million a year researching ways to enhance the human fighter. And so they've got this new thing that it's not new anymore, it's a couple years old now, but the Hulk, it's the battery-powered exoskeleton they put on the soldiers, you've probably seen that. They can carry 100 kilograms of weight, and they can run 10 miles an hour, 16 kilometers per hour. The other thing they're doing, they want to reduce sleep deprivation. So they've got to come up with drugs. They use performance-enhancing drugs on our troops. So they can go 48 hours, full activity. They make no mistakes. Now, this is another interesting one. They got a new drug that will erase memories. So the trick is they want to eliminate PTSD by eliminating the memories. And they got this thing called propanol, and that's from Harvard, okay? It effectively erases terrifying memories. And when they use this, and they show no response at all. This means, for a soldier, a memory-altering drug such as this could mean that violent combat is no more troubling, okay? Retrospectively, it's the same as going to the gym. The problem is, this ethicist is saying, what else are they blocking when they do this? That's right. Do we want a generation of veterans who return without guilt? So, and they're creating video games so they can re-experience their experiences from combat. They're also using magnetic fields on the brains of soldiers so that what you're doing is you're suppressing the emotions and you're maximizing the rational and logical brain. Okay, so what they appear like are autistic savants. Now, I'm a therapist, and one of the things we know about people with autism is that they tend to lack what? Empathy. Okay? They don't empathize with you. They don't know what it's like to go. So imagine having an army of soldiers in units that don't empathize with others, with one another, on the same combat team, or their victims, or the enemy, or their prisoners. It may seem clear that if you could create a man with no scruples, who feels little pain and no fear, you would have an excellent fighting machine. But this may be a case of be careful what you wish for. We get scared for a reason. We get scared to avoid danger to ourselves and others. You know, pain is an important signal to yourself. Emotions are important. Fatigue, we need to feel fatigue so we know when to rest. So those kinds, and even post-traumatic stress can have a beneficial role. It tells you when you've pushed your mind too far. We want people to know when they're sick. We want them to get help. Take away the humanity of the soldiers, and there is danger that the battles and wars we fight will become inhuman as well. Most of all, there is surely a danger that these techniques, far from producing better soldiers, will actually produce a squad of zoned-out zombies, which will be no match for determined, highly driven, highly motivated zealots, from other armies. How am I doing? Are we?
Awesome. Yeah.
That was great. Let me see what kind of time was. Got 3 minutes. What I would like to do is I do want to do questions, but I'd like to save the questions till when we have time to do the questions. Right now I've got 3 minutes. So I'm going to fill those 3 minutes with a little bit of history so you get to know me as the next governor of Nevada. Developing and becoming a human being and a leader, we do lack leadership. We lack leaders who are willing to talk about the truth and speak their mind. Everything is this political correct stuff. You know, when I got involved in politics, it was after years of developing myself as a human being. When I was in undergrad, maybe freshman, I was a poli-sci major, pre-law, and I went to one of my poli-sci classes with the great professor, J. Kent Marler. He's a moral guy. He says to me, David, intelligence is amoral. And it was because of that comment that I changed my major to philosophy so that I could get deeper into the roots of what it means to be a human. I went to the library and I started studying the history of the CIA, and I started studying special operations. So what I found out was that since after World War II, we've had killing squads going around the world, using our special forces that way. And so when we start to see these things come back to our own country, when we start to see these kinds of things like the Boston bombing or 9/11, those kinds of things we have to ask questions. These are kinds of things that we've had that have been done for decades in our name and other nations, and they're coming home to roost. And so we need to examine everything that's being done with our military. How are these people being used? What are they being asked to do? How are they being used as guinea pigs? And right now, we've got all these scandals about our troops being abandoned in the battlefield. Extortion 17 is SEAL Team 6. Why are they all on this Old helicopter, right? Why? Why? The whole team. Why do we have Navy SEALs asking for help in Benghazi and no help comes to them? So we've got to get to the bottom of how people are being used here. And not just soldiers. I'm really interested to know everybody's experience, because it's not just soldiers that are going to be taken advantage of. So we'll talk more about it. I'm going to call it good right there, because we got other things going. But I appreciate all of you. I'll be back later on in this program.
So I'm very pleased to introduce David Vanderbeek, who is the 2014 Governor of Nevada, and I want everyone to give him a warm welcome. And he is a very interesting young man, very advanced young man, who is working on behalf of changing this country. He's very awake and aware, and I had the pleasure of meeting him a few years ago at a garden party in Sedona. And I was very surprised to come here and see that he was actually still at it and working hard to get into become governor of Nevada for 2014. So that's a great thing. And I'm trying to encourage him to check out this citizens hearing for disclosure so that he can be up to speed on all of that as well. He is here with us, and he's going to be talking for the next approximately an hour of the show. And so, David Vanderbeek, welcome.
Appreciate that. I will say a few words. I'll take some questions afterward. I'm going to address a few more topics on the military, and then if you want me to talk about Area 51 and kind of the future of that here in Nevada, I'll do that. You can ask questions about that. I can't say that I'm an expert. I'm not. I'm coming here as a student. People in the political realm, are just as much in the dark as other people. But, as I said before, my commitment to the people is to follow the truth wherever it goes. So whatever the truth is, let's have the truth, and let's be able to make educated decisions about that. So this article that I want to share with you, now again, these are mainstream news articles. This is livescience.com, okay? And the article is the 10 most outrageous military experiments. It's from February 22nd, 2011. So this is about super soldiers. And this gentleman, you might call him, he's kind of like a modern day Dr. Frankenstein. His name is Michael Goldblatt. He's the former head of DARPA. And DARPA is the United States Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, so DARPA for short. And he says, my measure of success is that the International Olympic Committee bans everything we do. Now, so this is important. This is one of the items, just one of them, build your inner armor. So DARPA wants soldiers to have inner armor. For example, consider the efforts to give humans the extreme abilities of some animals, such as the high-altitude conditioning of the bar-headed goose that has been known to crash into aircraft at more than 34,000 feet. Scientists are also eyeing the stellar sea lion, which redirects blood flow away from non-critical organs during deep-sea dives and reduces oxygen demand. So he's saying that he will not accept that our soldiers can't outperform their enemies. And the goal is to make soldiers kill-proof against all sorts of conditions, including infectious diseases, chemical, biological, radioactive weapons, temperature and altitude extremes, and harsh environments. It sounds like a certain mutant superhero. So what exactly is he saying? He's talking about the merger of human and animal DNA. So they're looking at animal DNA, which they can then put into the soldiers. So we're talking about genetically engineered soldiers. So have you heard of chimeras? That's what a chimera is. The other things that are listed here, you've got the 24 hours, 7 days a week warrior. that can go all around the clock. You've got until 1996, the Pentagon spent $20 million developing ESP in soldiers. That's up until 1996. They're working on soldiers that can resist nerve gas spray. They're working on hallucinogenic warfare, so if they shoot a bomb, that people will hallucinate. They want soldiers that can fall at the speed of sound. They use them to test vaccines on them, vaccines against biological weapons. And then also they've got testing where they injected in the 40s, and this came out in 1995, our own government injected plutonium into our soldiers. So you're talking a 50-year gap where the government denies those tests. And then they also worked on sailors to develop their infrared vision and their night vision, which they were successful at doing that. So that is the 10 most outrageous military experiments. That's livescience.com. This article is the National Geographic, okay? National Geographic News. So you can't get more mainstream as far as that goes. Animal-human hybrids spark controversy. This is 2005, so this is old news. We're talking about using biotechnology to what will essentially divide the human species into genetically distinct categories. So you'll have a literal warrior class. This starts with the military, right? But what else would it lead into? Multiple human species. Scientists have begun blurring the line between human and animal by producing chimeras. The Chinese in 2003 successfully fused human cells with rabbit eggs. They said that they killed the rabbits and harvested their stem cells before they matured. But, who really knows? That's what the Chinese said. Our Mayo Clinic created pigs with human blood. That was in 2004. And Stanford was looking at creating mice with human brains. So imagine being able to play chess or something against a mouse. That's what they're really working on. Of course, this is going to create all sorts of ethical dilemmas. I mean, what kind of rights will these new creatures have? Will they have human rights? Will they have constitutional rights? At what point are you a human and what part are you something else? Now, one of the things, there are some things that I do know. I'm not entirely ignorant of the history. Hitler had rock star status in the United States prior to the end of World War II. He had a lot of fans. People thought he was great. But what we know now is that they were using those concentration camps as places for human experiments. So they would take, for example, the heart of a cow and put it in a human to see how long they could survive. They would take people, for example, one experiment was taking a man and a woman, stripping him down naked and putting him in ice cold water to see how long they could survive. So a lot of experimentation. And also at the end of the war, there's an operation that was called Paperclip. And so in that operation, what we did essentially, elements of our government wanted all that research. The Russians wanted it. And so an Operation Paperclip was about bringing Nazis into the U.S. to get all that research and that information, because they were psychopathic, but they were doing real science, even though it was destructive. Okay, the science of destruction. We also know, now there was an article that I read, and I didn't get this article, but you can look this up. It was in the New York Times. It was about MK Ultra, and it was a grandmother who had been in MK Ultra. It was in California. It was basically in a mansion, and it was a house of horrors. And MK Ultra was the mind control program that was exposed. Now, just because the program's exposed, that it may be shut down, but that doesn't mean the government doesn't put all that research somewhere else, change its name, and still carry on. There's also indications that they were looking at stuff in Vietnam and how to test drugs on troops then. And my concern is, with all this super soldier research, what's going on with our veterans today? Because if these veterans come back, we see them having to serve many tours. They're taking drugs in combat. We know they've used experimental vaccines on them. The federal government, I'm deeply concerned because they deny treatment. They deny the benefits. The federal government denies responsibility. It is the pattern of delay, deny until you die. And so what I would expect to see is, as a therapist, I would expect to see that as these super soldiers try to reintegrate into society, that if they have, the violent tendencies which they're programmed to kill, and that's basically what they're made into, they're going to have, I can tell you, knowing them, warriors don't complain and they don't whine, so they don't really get help. On the other hand, they have all these violent tendencies and they end up, do I hurt this person? Do I kill this person? So what do you do when you're in that state of depression and that state of violence? Well, you take your own life. So we'll continue to see warriors that are neglected and abused by society, and we'll see the suicide rate continue to hold firm and rise, because the mentality of them is they would rather hurt themselves than hurt the people that they worked so hard to protect. They don't know how to manage these conditions, and the government won't acknowledge their suffering. And this is something I have a personal track record in, because when I was in the service, they were denying medical examinations, and so I actually was party to a congressional inquiry because I couldn't get. You have to go to Congress, and so I went to my senators, and I was in artillery. And so I had first-hand experience of standing up to the whole chain of command, and that's something, I don't know from other government leaders, but I stood up, and I know that about myself, and I'll continue to stand up for the health of veterans and make sure they get that care. What is my message? I do want to give one specific message to all our warriors who are victims of these kind of government experimentation and abuse. My message as the governor of this state is to come to Nevada. We will get you the world's best medical care and mental health care. The current outgoing governor is in the news for shipping mental health patients to other states. I'm a therapist. That's not quality of care. We need to take care of our people. And the opposite is, we want Nevada to become a leader in providing care to people who need it. I would never do that. I would put my mantle around the shoulders of veterans and people who have been abused by these experiments, and we'll get you care. If we even have to create our own Veterans Administration at the state level to make up for whatever the federal government will not take care of. And then we'll sue. We'll sue the federal government for you, and we'll use that money to pay for your care. So we can get these are real issues. Conspiracies aside, at the end of the day, whether you're a victim of a conspiracy or not, you need to get care, you need to get help. Even if everybody can't understand it, we can get them rehabilitated and we can get them employed. And the commitment is to all these people is to hear what they have to say, to hear if they've been subjected to illegal or inhumane or destructive government military experiments. The people will be heard, and we need to have a national conversation about these crimes. And we will prosecute, and there will be justice, and that's my oath to you all. So thank you for that, and thank you for the time to speak with me. Are there any questions?
I appreciate you saying that you would get us help. I've been a mind control victim for 3 years, and I've been straight up with all my doctors of all the ailments that have happened with me. How about just understanding? I mean, it is all denial the whole time. You're getting every single, every part of it.
Yes, go ahead.
Repeat that question, because
I will repeat it one. Yeah. So go ahead.
It's
I'll
not
repeat
only,
it.
I find it's
not
not
you. I want him to repeat.
Oh.
Right? I mean, tell me
So go finish your
I
question.
find it's not only denial, it's almost part taking.
Yeah. Yeah. So if I were to, so your comment is that you are a veteran and you've experienced.
No, I'm not a veteran, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're not a veteran, but you've
It's an ordinary
experienced.
Joe that's experienced, I'm a whistleblower.
Okay, you're a whistleblower of mind control experimentation.
I have mind control that's been trying to control my mind for 3 years, but to no avail.
So that's where we have to have a conversation about what is the extent, because as a therapist, when I was a grad student, I came across ritual abuse, and that's something that's not acknowledged either. How minds can be broken down and fragmented, and what happens to those people. So we need to have open, candid conversations, and most people don't even acknowledge, MK Ultra was something I learned about. So we need to be able to have a conversation where everybody knows, okay, this is what MK Ultra is. We can start with what's actually just declassified and kind of go from there.
I'm actually in the court of law, and right now for 3 years, defending a domestic violence, a fraudulent
Domestic violence against my youngest child. She was 50 at the time. They've kept me separated, waiting 2 years for an evaluation at the Western State Hospital. I was supposed to be there for 28 days. They let me out in 6 and said, there's nothing wrong with you. The Shoreline Court is sending me back to get another evaluation. Continually keeping me separated from my child because of mind control technologies. They don't understand it. They don't believe it. It's a conspiracy, or they're in on it.
You have a question? There's a mic over here. I guess if you want to have a question, come to the mic.
I'd just like to say that they are in on it, okay, sir? Sir, they're in on it.
Yes, that's what I'm
The
saying.
intelligence agencies in the UK specifically target that. One of the things they do is separate the children. They'll be doing it for years. So make no mistake about it, they're in on it.
Question?
Hi. I just wanted to comment. It's not that they're not giving you your benefits, it's that somebody has trespassed upon your agreement with that. Every time you sign something, those funds come out of the Federal Reserve. If you're not getting them, they're usurping them. And it says, I'm going to take your funds away. And if you have a problem with that, you have the right to a fair hearing. The minute you go into your fair hearing, your exchange for them to hear you pissy, moan, and cry is the exact security instrument that you're trying to protect. So every single time you sign something, those funds are gone, and that's registered at the SEC as the exchange. So you do have the funds. Our Federal Reserve keeps going up and up and up and up and up, because every time you sign it, they pay you. It's somebody else usurping your benefits that needs to be addressed.
Okay. Any questions?
I got a comment. You know, I'm a veteran, and,
Excuse me, you're a veteran, do you have a comment?
I can speak up, I don't need no.
Well, no, it's for the radio show.
For the radio,
Yeah, we're live on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.
Yeah, I'm a vet, and the bottom line with the system right now is my doctors all tell me, welcome to Obamacare. And what does Obamacare mean? It means we get no care. And, you know, that's my only comment.
Right.
But it's a bunch of crap, and it's all controlled by the government. So.
Yeah, so what you're looking at is, you're talking about these universal health care plans or federally government controlled health care.
Yeah, I'm 100%.
The question is, why does the federal government want to run all of your health care? How would that be used against you? We can see it being merged with the police, law enforcement. We can see the IRS wanting to have health records.
Thank you.
So that's a concern. Are people going to get the best care? Well, I think the state should run its own healthcare system or an individual should be able to buy whatever healthcare they want on the free market.
Actually, I have a question. Okay, anybody who has a question needs to come to to the microphone for the radio show.
Yeah, I have a comment about Obamacare and some of the other things. I read at least one and saw a few more articles on the new DSM-5 that's coming out, the diagnostic manual for personality disorders, things like that. The thing that's been really concerning me is this creeping, and I spoke with you about this just for a moment, narcissism. Narcissists are psychopaths.
Yes.
That have no empathy, have no compassion, but they put forth a beautiful, wonderful, charismatic face.
Yeah.
They're the ones we elect to office. Well, these people have also sleazed their way into the top echelons of the psychiatric associations. And I think that they're responsible for a lot of the changes in the DSM-5. And the thing that really concerns me big time about Obamacare is responsibility for our health, mental, physical, whatever, being taken away from us and being mandated by Obamacare. And this, you know, because of the proliferation and the invention of personality disorders, the DSM-4 was bad enough, the DSM-5 is going to be worse, and I would recommend that you find understanding peers to talk to and not even go to especially mainstream therapists anymore, or you're going to be diagnosed and you're going to be mandated to take medications for your condition, and if you don't take them, then you could be risk being locked away.
Yeah, as a therapist, I'm a licensed spiritual family therapist in the state of Nevada, and so when you're using a diagnostic code out of the DSM, you're doing it primarily for the insurance purposes, and that's, you know, and you have the ability as a professional to choose a diagnosis that's the least stigmatizing thing so that the people get their services, such as an adjustment disorder versus something like a personality disorder. You know, narcissism doesn't make you a sociopath, but you can observe the characteristics. So you're looking at the DSM, it's debatable. What are we going to call this thing, this behavior that this person's exhibiting? You know, they're trying to come up with some label for it. That doesn't make it right. It's all subject to debate, and the authorities need to understand that. And I understand that. We're just trying to, we've gone to the level as a species at least where we paid attention to our bodies, food, exercise, but now we're realizing that our emotions and our thoughts are real things. They're physical things. So how are we going to, I call therapy emotional strength training. How do we become strong emotionally? How do we become strong mentally? So that's what I try to do as a therapist.
Hi, this is Carrie Cassidy. I actually have a question for you because I don't know if you're aware of how Pahrump is used by the Secret Space Program as kind of it's a retirement home, if you will, for ex-super soldiers and people that have worked in the military on all levels. And they are actually attracted to Pahrump, Nevada, and kind of encouraged to settle there. And then you can appreciate how they're sort of settling on the farm, if you will, of the Secret Space Program. And I believe there are probably some other areas of this state, Nevada, that are like that. I mean, you are kind of, if you want to become governor of the state, you're taking sort of the bull by the horns in a sense, because this place is riddled with underground bases, of which I'm sure you're aware. So my question to you is, how would you approach all of that? And really, I mean, are you going to be able to do anything on that level?
So, with regard to specifically...
First of all, are you aware of Pahrump?
Well, what I'm aware of it for Nye County is, you know, we've got Area 51 here. I'm aware that it's used for witness protection. Nye County is. There's a lot of retired CIA and FBI there. I'm not aware, personally, I don't have a personal awareness of super soldiers retiring to Pahrump. But what?
Are you aware of the holding camp that's going to be built there, 35,000 people?
Well, but to finish answering your question is, what would I do, where would I begin as governor? The first thing we have to have before we can make any decisions on anything is you always have to pull things into the light. You have to begin with disclosure of the facts. So we just have to start with that. We have to get the facts on the table. That's why Area 51 needs to be opened up. You know, whoever the government's in contact with, the people need to know you're paying for it. You need to know what your money's being used for. You need to know the environmental impact of it. So those are, these people in government, the federal government, that claim to care so much about the environment, they're the hardest ones on the environment.
I just wanted to mention that the thing with the psychiatric evaluations, that has nothing to do with anything that the person does or does not say or anything else. It's written into the economic securities that is filed at the SEC. When they want to use you for biotech, it is the law now to 5150 you so that they can take unauthorized jurisdiction over your body and your property and ruin your credibility. And it has nothing to do with anything you do or do not say. Are you aware of that?
Well, my concern would be your mental health being labeled with a mental health label so that the government can, basically take possession of you. That's the problem, is mental health being used against people that are patriots, constitutionalists, truth seekers, anybody that disagrees with the totalitarian state, being deemed or labeled mentally unstable. That's
It's
the
worse
problem.
than that. They choose you from the DNA blood bank because they want a specific DNA characteristic to test. And as of, I think it was 2002 or 2003, they made it the law that they have to 5150 you prior to doing this to you.
Well, and then you've got the program to take blood from all babies, at the beginning of their birth, they're taking samples.
Okay.
So
At the state level, even if you're governor, I don't see how that really helps you because this is under the New World Order. This comes from...
What don't you see is what's not helping me? I'm not sure I understand.
I'm not so certain that you're going to be impotent to act upon any of these issues, as far as I can see as a governor.
Well, you're absolutely entitled to your opinion. I disagree with you 100%.
Good for you.
Good for you.
This is called nullification. What you don't understand is that, that's right. Sovereignty, this is the next move. It's nullification at the town, county, and city level. The states, in some ways, the state government's going to be irrelevant because I'm going to encourage people to make sovereign decisions as individuals. Okay? That is the future of government in America, where an individual becomes an economy because of the transference of information. It's instantaneous. So when markets will be instant, information will be that instant. So the free market, that's where we're going. We have huge energy reserves. The question is, who's going to possess them going into the future? We will take back the technology. I think you're just wrong. Okay, I'm an optimist. That's why I'm here. I'm in this position because God put me here to do work. Okay, I have the ability, I have the gifts. I am the next governor of Nevada. Okay, period. We will nullify the laws that come out of the federal government we disagree with. We will take back Area 51. We will get disclosure. That's going to happen. The platform at NevadaGovernor2014.com, that is the platform for the future for every governor. This is the model campaign. If it starts in Nevada, that's where it's going to start. But we're going to take back the country one town at a time, one county at a time, one state at a time. And it's not going to stop in the U.S. This isn't about America, and this isn't about me. This is my position on the team called the human race. Okay? It's an international effort. You know that. This is international. We're in the vibe. Whether you call the frequency, the collective consciousness, I'm just a part of it. This isn't about my ego. Okay? This is my job for you. I'm your brother. So I'm fighting for you. That's what this is about.
So basically, when it comes to psychiatric health, regardless of whether or not you've got any disease being any type of injury, I don't care if it was caused externally, it can't be used against you because you have a history of mental illness
Well, you know, speaking of that, look, what do we do with people who have drug problems? We treat them like criminals instead of treating them like they need help.
Right.
We need to give people help. And we got all these veterans on the street, they call them homeless people. Well, let's get them help.
That's because their funds have been usurped, and that's exactly what's happening.
We'll get the money back. We're going to sue them. We'll get our money back. We'll find the money.
Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae are the ones where you'll find that.
We're going to go we're going into the CAFRs. We're going to go into the comprehensive annual financial reports. We'll get the money out of the CAFRs. The money and the resources are all there. It's all there. We'll get it back. We'll get you taken care of.
Well, hi, my name is Derek Robinson, and I'm director of an organization called Freedom from Covert Harassment and Surveillance, and this consists of mind control technology victims. And I'm very glad to hear that you are a therapist, because that's something that's very important to our organization. There are dozens of mind control technology victims around the area of Las Vegas, dozens of them. Once you become governor, what can you do to help them?
Well, we'll investigate everything. So what I can do is I can set up a council to investigate every kind of complaint like that. If people feel like they're being subjected to experimentation, we can have a special task force to take in the complaints, take all the evidence in, and we'll follow up on it, and then present the results to the people. And go as far as we have to go. We'll take the information in and we'll run with it. I'll go out there myself. If I have to go out to Area 51, I will. I'll walk through it. I'll go wherever you say. If you say there's a site here, I'll walk up there to them myself. You know, they have this thing on the internet. Did you see how there was a report saying what are all these weird signs going up around Las Vegas? Did you see that? Okay, you saw it. All right, you know what I'm talking about. I went over to one today and got it on film. I'll put it on the internet and just talk about what it is, okay? All I think it is look, not everything's a conspiracy. We got a mass influx of people from California. They're congesting our highways. Us Nevadans are not used to having all these people around us, right? So we've got new highway signs that are going to tell you when, you know, the 95 is horrible, the 93, the I-15, the 215, the 515. That's what I think those signs are about. So not everything's a conspiracy, but I will follow up on everything. I can give you my oath on that.
You're going to have a lot of TIs here.
My question is, it's my understanding that the federal government really doesn't have any jurisdiction constitutionally outside of the District of Columbia, but they're enforcing all these laws in healthcare, gun legislation, everything they're trying to do against the states. But the states sign contracts to take federal money from the federal government, and then they enter into a contract, and then they give up all the states' rights, and that's why we're in the mess that we're in. What could you say about what you could do possibly to help people? Somebody else said that the sheriffs have power, and they do, but the power is being given away through contracts.
What your governor is supposed to do is approve the budget. So the governor can cause the whole thing to stand still, because he's going to approve where the funds are coming from and how they're coming. So as a governor, I'll gum up the whole works until we get the money straightened out. I have the control of the budget. So if they're going to say, well, we're going to have the money come from here, go over to here, I'm going to say, no, what we're going to do is we're going to have our own state bank. We're going to get out of the Federal Reserve System. We're going to take our gold and silver and we'll back up the state's debts. But we're going to let the free market in Nevada, you're not going to force us to use Federal Reserve notes anymore. Okay? Nevada citizens will be able to use any currency they want on the free market. If they want to use tally sticks, that's fine. That's called the free market multi-currency system. Okay? But as far as the government is constitutionally required until we amend it that the government must pay all its debts in gold and silver. So let's follow the Constitution. Let's see what the government looks like after that. Let's just get back to the original thing, and then if we need to modify it from there, I don't think we will, but we'll go from there. I mean, anyway. Go ahead.
Just a second, folks. I think Nighthawk Revolution Radio is trying to talk to us. They dropped us.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you, I recently heard that Nevada was looking into opting out of NDAA. Have you heard of this?
Yes. Las Vegas and City Council, that's what they're moving on for the city of Las Vegas. Now, is there a specific legislative bill? There are different legislative bills. There isn't, to my knowledge, there wasn't one specifically dealing with the NDAA. But that's a perfect example of nullification, which every county, every town will be encouraged to do to nullify at the state level. The governor is your chief law enforcer with the sheriffs, and my job as governor is to arrest anybody who tries to enforce the NDAA in the borders of Nevada. We'll police our own people. You don't need somebody else to come. You're supposed to be policed by your peers. Okay, I'll answer. So, you were talking about the robots earlier. Look, I don't want to be policed by a robot. The Constitution, I want to be policed by my peers. I want to be tried by my peers. Not by some soldier from the federal government. Not some robot that has its own program that doesn't have human emotions. Policed by my peers, tried by my peers. Yeah, I'll go as long as you guys need me to go. I'm here for you.
Here for you.
All right.
Well, you know what? You've been very intriguing and very interesting, and I want to really thank you for being here with us tonight. And I think we owe this man a big round of applause. There are very few people out there that are willing to take back our government and get it back to the way it's supposed to be. And he really is a true patriot, and I want to thank him from the bottom of my heart for being here. If I lived in the state, I would vote for him. So if any of you know anybody who lives in Nevada, please tell them about him and make sure that they get there and they vote for him. It's very important. We've got to get people like that in place. Now, I know he goes against the grain of many of you and what you're doing with the super soldiers and mind control and that, and he may not be where we're at with all that, but give the guy a chance. You know, it takes a while to get indoctrinated into this lifestyle, because believe me, it is a lifestyle, and it's something that a lot of us live with on a day-to-day basis. I wouldn't be putting on this conference if there wasn't a problem out there. And you got to give the guy credit. At least he's starting to say he'll put up a task force. You know, he's the first one I've heard that has ever said he'd even look into it. And being a therapist, not to think we're all out of our minds, is a big start right there. So there you go, folks. So we'll take a 5-minute break. We'll be back with the Super Soldier Summit. Super Soldier, what I call kind of like the big reveal.